In other words, give me tangible things that show me that you're not intending to work on it in the future, but you are indeed presently working on it. And here's what you're doing in that way.
True.
Does that make sense? All right. We're going to be doing today an interview with Samhitha, and this is a mock interview for medical school. Samhitha, welcome to the medical school. Thank you for being here. We're happy to meet you today.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Why don't we start off by you just telling me a little bit about yourself?
My name is Samhitha, and I am from North Carolina. And I went to North Carolina State University and have a background in biomedical engineering. Some of my favorite things to do are love spending time with my family as I grew up in Georgia. So a lot of my family's there. I love spending my time there. And during my free time, I love playing racket sports. Growing up, I played a lot of tennis, and now I play a mix of tennis and pickleball. And during the summers, I love swimming. So I've been into that recently because summer, the weather's really nice.
Yeah, sure, sure. That's wonderful, wonderful. So how'd you get into tennis?
So tennis, when I was younger, we would live near this park and I would see all these kids come in for summer camp. And I love hanging out with friends and doing something fun each summer. And I was like, oh my God, this looks so cool. And so I asked my parents if I could join the summer camp, and I joined. And turns out not only do I like playing with other people my age, but I really fell in love with tennis. And this was about when I was like done with second grade, third grade. I started pretty young. And that kind of grew into me playing at my school in elementary school and through middle school. And in high school, I moved to North Carolina, which is where I currently live. Here, I started playing more tennis with friends and family and not as much competitively, but I still love it. It's one of my favorite pastimes.
Good. And how long have you been playing pickleball?
Pickleball, I had no idea that was a sport until I had to take a health education class at university. And so I was like, oh, this sounds fun. It said racket sport. I'm familiar with racket sport. And so I took it, and it was probably my most favorite 8 a.m. class. Generally, I don't like 8 a.m.s because it's a rush getting there in the morning. But I definitely loved it. I love going in first thing in the morning, twice a week, and playing pickleball. It's a little bit different than tennis for sure, because you have a different racket and different type of ball, and the court's smaller. But I definitely had a lot of fun playing that sport too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I've played pickleball a couple of times and it's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. Really fun. Good. Tell me, Samisa, about your interest in medicine. Where does that come from for you? I mean,
Yes. Yeah, when I was younger, I would accompany some of my family members, like when they had a health condition. My mom, she had ulcerative colitis. And when I was younger, I really didn't understand what that meant or what it was. I just knew like this was something super scary. And being there as part of my family with my mom, I was able to be there in the room and talk, hear out what was going on, try to figure out what was going on because I was pretty young. And the nice thing is with our family doctor, she was able to sit us down and break it down what it meant, what class meant, and getting that understanding and being able to see how much he helped my family. That really meant a lot to me. And I think that's the first thing that kind of planted the initial seed for my interest in healthcare. And later on, as I grew older, I took part in a lot of service events as that's something that my family and I would love to do, try to give back to the community as much as possible. And one of my favorite service events I did was volunteer at a local hospital. And there I got to interact with a lot of patients of all ages, and just seeing the relationship that those patients have built with doctors and the amount of trust and how much they believe in their physician, that really resonated with me. And it's something that I realized I would feel really fulfilling to do as a career. And so that's how my journey initially started.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's great. It's very interesting to me that you were going with your parents and the interest developed from that. So that's amazing. Yeah. And then the volunteering and stuff. Oh, that's great. Tell me if you could make any change to the American healthcare system, if you had the opportunity to wave a magic wand to make a change to the American healthcare system, what change would you make? And why would you make that change?
Definitely in the American healthcare system, we have progressed a lot, but there are still many things that could be changed for the better. I have noticed as much as we've worked towards decreasing healthcare disparities around the country, there are still some problems. There's few issues here and there, and I think providing better access to healthcare and better, like, affordable care, I'm really proud of how far we've gotten in making that progress, but I think there's still a substantial amount of change that can be made there.
Mhm. And how would you make that change?
I personally, as a future physician, one of my goals is to have a free clinic alongside my regular work as a physician. And that way, have a portable free clinic truck or something cool like that, where I could go out to different areas, people who don't have like access to transportation and like countryside or other rural areas, and be able to go out to them instead of having to go through like different bridges and blockades that they have where they can't come to hospitals, being able to go out to them and provide care. And also, as an engineer, one of my favorite things I did was my engineering design project. And through that, one of the things that we tackled was how to create more affordable and accessible technology. And that's something that I'm still super passionate about doing. And with my medical training, along with my engineering background, I want to help create more portable, affordable medical technology so that they're more accessible to these regions where they can't really travel to bigger cities.
Sure. Interesting. Mitha, if I was to give you the opportunity to write yourself a letter when you were a freshman in high school, what would you say to your freshman in high school self?
Now that I look back, I would tell myself everything's going to be all right. And life's a roller coaster. Definitely, there's going to be your ups and downs, but definitely enjoy the ride. Pursue your goals. Don't give up. Just stay on track. Have fun while you're on this journey because it's going to get tough. And there's going to be moments where you do question yourself, but that's where you need to persevere. Just add a little bit more effort, just a little bit more, get that confidence and just pursue my goals. And I would definitely tell myself that my freshman year self in high school that.
Okay, great. So, Misa, if I was to come to North Carolina, to your town, do you live in Raleigh?
No, that's where I went to college, but I live in Charlotte.
Oh, okay, in Charlotte. If I was to come to Charlotte and I was to gather together your group of friends and ask them what they consider to be your greatest personal quality, what do you think they would say?
I think something that I've heard them mention a lot is being bubbly and just always having something fun to do, something fun to say. Just never at a loss of like interesting things to do or just interesting conversations to have. A very bubbly
Mm,
person. Yeah.
okay. And conversely, if I was to ask them, what does Samantha need to work on? Where is her great potential area? What do you think they would say to that?
I guess that is a very good question. I think one of the things that I could work on is, all right, I do tend to say yes a lot. I want to always help out where I can. And sometimes it gets a little bit too much, and I need to understand when to balance priorities, and not always be a super yes person.
Good. Okay. Samantha, if tell me about something that you regret. What was it? And what would you do differently if you could?
Yeah, something I regret. I would say if I do look back in my journey, I don't think I would change anything as I love the lessons that I've learned, the way I've approached things, whether it was for the good or the bad. Like I learned something along the way, but something I regret. It's okay if I take a few seconds to think about it.
Yes, absolutely. Sure.
Just for clarification, do you mean like academically or personally?
Personally, in academically, anything.
Personally, so one example is when I was off in college, I didn't have just with all the work that I was doing, I didn't have too much opportunity to visit my family, my grandparents, and just like a few big events that we were having as a family. And so I do regret not being able to be there in person during these events, or due to balancing my engineering classes and trying to do all my activities and all these opportunities that I had at university. Um, so that was one of the things that I had to choose between being there at the family events or taking part in these opportunities. I wasn't sure if I would have another opportunity to take part in. And so what I did was in order to try my best to be there at family events, I would help plan, help set up, like when I could. And I would also try to be there virtually or check back in with them after or before the events. And looking back, I do regret a little bit not being there in person, but I'm glad I was able to do something, be able to be there in another form for them.
Okay, good. Tell me, Samhitha, you find that your best friend in medical school has cheated on an exam. What do you do?
Cheating in any way or form is just absolutely unacceptable and it goes against integrity. And even though they are my best friend and I do value my friendship with them, I would first approach them. I would ask them, I would first go ahead and let them know that I saw this. Hey, I saw you cheat and on this exam or assignment. And I would first, I want to hear them out. Like, what was going on? What was the situation? Why did they cheat? And then once I do find out if it was because, regardless of why they cheated, first, I would tell them to go openly explain their situation, like what happened to the professor, or that if they didn't, I would have to let the professor know because it wouldn't be fair for the rest of the students who are in that class working hard and genuinely trying their best on this test or assignment. And after hearing out my friend, if they were doing this because they had other family issues and weren't able to focus and concentrate, I would offer help in talking to the professor. And if it's their first time making this mistake, I would try to help support my friend when they were talking to their professor and then also offer help for them to study for the next exam or this help them study the material so they're able to finish their assignments or their exams on their own and to prevent them from further cheating. And I would also let them, okay, it's not ethical to be doing this.
If you were pretty clear
Mhm.
that by reporting this cheating situation, that your friend would be expelled from medical school, you would still report them.
I think I would still stand by what I said, but I would try to talk to the professor and to the board, at least support my friend in how they could try to talk to the board, explain their situation. Why? If it was genuinely they just wanted to cheat because of the sake of cheating, I feel like that's something that they brought on to themselves. And that is a consequence because it really isn't fair for the rest of the students in the class and them being my friend, I do understand reporting could hurt my friendship, but it wouldn't be fair for the rest of the student population if they were let go just because.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, good. Thank you. So, Samantha, here at the medical school, as we get a lot of applications every year,
Yeah,
my question is, why should we accept you into our class?
that's a great question. First, I feel this is something I thought about when I wanted to apply for medical school that, and during my undergrad. I've always wanted to learn. I always been interested in healthcare. And when I am interested in something, I want to learn every single facet and perspective of how things work and try to understand. And um, someone with the engineering background, and I always want to know, like, how can I make things better? How can I get involved in something to make a change? And I'm super driven either in technology or innovation or taking part in service in the community. And I think that's a unique quality is I love integrating medicine with technology to serve underserved people. That is, I think that's a quality that's I could really add and be an asset to the medical school.
Mhm. Okay. All right, good. We'll stop there, Samantha. How do you think that went?
I did feel really nervous, and at some point, I did hear myself saying multiple "ands," which I realized it was not okay. I caught myself at some point saying "and this and that," so definitely need to fix that. I think I feel just very frozen almost a little bit on the inside just because of the nervousness. But yeah, I
Sure.
think maybe practicing just a little bit more, learning to free myself a little bit more and be a little bit more casual and professional at the same time would help.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Let me give you just a few things that I think might be helpful in terms of feedback. I like you have a nice smile, and I like it that you use that smile. In other words, we have a conversation. We're having a conversation. It's nice to be pleasant, and smiling is a very important way of nonverbal communication. And
Mhm.
so I liked it that you were able to smile at times. Obviously, you want to do it in an appropriate way, and but I thought you did a very good job with that. You do seem to say the word a lot, and in often that was the first word that you would say when you were answering a question. Blah 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 blah. This blah 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 blah. So what I would suggest, and we all use these filler words. Different people use different types of filler words. So the technique that I suggest is really slowing down the pace of your language. You do talk pretty fast. So I would say slow down your language, the pace,
Mhm.
and it requires you to be very intentional with every word that's coming out of your mouth. So the slower that you go, I'm not talking about slowing down too much, but the slower you go, the more able you are to consider every word as you are speaking it so that you're
Mhm.
not speaking words that you don't intend to speak. All right. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have noticed that I do talk fast sometimes during presentations or something. I have to really slow myself down just a tad. Yeah.
Good. That's good. Well, a couple of other things I would say. One is I didn't notice it a lot during the interview, but you are sitting in a chair that swivels. Correct.
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah.
And
Yeah, it swivels.
sometimes when we get nervous, our tendency is to use that nervousness and rock a little or sometimes up and down or so what
Mhm.
I typically suggest for students that are interviewing virtually is to replace the desk chair that they have with a stationary chair that does not move. So there's no
Yeah.
temptation to swivel or like
Mhm.
that. The other thing, and I didn't notice that you did this, but I just for the sake of the audience, is
Mhm.
the other thing I would suggest is never lean on the desk in front of you or the table, whatever's in
Mhm.
front of you. Don't lean
Yeah.
on it. My suggestion is to push back a little bit, get up on the edge of your chair, be good posture, be attentive, be excited and engaged in what you're doing, and bright face, smile, be really captivating with the things that you're saying so that the interviewer sees that you're engaged and you're excited and you're really energetic and you want to be there and you're excited about what the future holds. That's that non-verbal cues that you're giving to the interviewer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
And I
makes
thought you were doing a good. I thought you were doing a good job with most of that. So I just wanted to point those things out. One of the things when I asked you about your friends and what they would say about you, I was essentially asking you what your strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah, I
I
think
was
I caught that by
asking
the
you
second question.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you indicated that you were, as a strength, bubbly and interesting to talk to and fun. And then you indicated as your weakness that you tend to overcommit. And so, what I would say on both of these is give examples of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So they tend to be bubbly. For example, let me tell you about a friend of mine came up the other day and told me a story, and I was so excited and I was hugging her and blah, blah, blah. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. Same thing with overcommitment. Give me an example of what you're talking about. And then, especially with the weakness, indicate then not just I am trying to work on this,
Mhm.
but give me examples of tangible things that you're doing to work on that activity. Say, I'm working on this by keeping a time log or a calendar on my phone so I know exactly what I'm committing to. By practicing with my friends, by asking my friends to tell me when they feel like I'm overcommitting. So keeping me accountable. In other words, give me tangible things that show me that you're not intending to work on it in the future, but you are indeed presently working on it. And here's what you're doing in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, good. The question that I asked you about what you regret, you had to really think about that one.
Yes.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So what this leads me to suggest is There are a lot of online resources. Dr. Gray's book from our company
Mhm.
has a variety of his book on the interview experience has a variety of potential questions in the back of the book. I definitely want to review those, not to the point where you are spelling out answers to the questions, but just getting an idea of some of the most notable questions. And the regret question is one of those that comes up fairly frequently. And so
Yeah.
you just want to get an idea so that, I've considered this one. I've
Mhm.
heard it before and I can resonate with that.
Speaking of the book, I just got this in the mail.
Yeah, very
So I
good.
yeah, I'm
Very good.
excited to,
Yeah,
go through it.
absolutely. The final question that I asked you, why you, is the question
Mhm.
I asked you. Why should we accept you? And you iterated that you are really passionate about serving others and that you think that this will be of value to the class. And I thought that was a reasonably good answer. What I would suggest, however, is addressing the value that you're going to bring to the class to particular people. The first group of people is your peers. The value that you are going to bring to the class and how you are going to impact your peers in the medical school class. You want to address that. I'm going to be able to really connect with my peers. I come from an engineering background, and so I see things in an engineering perspective, and I think that that will help me resonate in the class, maybe a bit different perspective than perhaps some others might have. So peers is one group of people you want to really address how you're going to impact and the value you'll bring to your peers. The second group of people is your patients. Most medical schools these days in the United States, you begin seeing patients fairly quickly upon entering the medical school. And so
Mhm.
we want to make sure and address through your clinical experiences, through your own personality and the power of your bubbly personality and your interesting conversational skills, that you'll be effective in the clinical setting. This is a
Mhm.
very big concern for medical schools. They don't want to accept people who are going to be awful in the clinical setting. It's one of the reasons that
Mhm.
they interview, the interviews occur. They want to
Mhm.
meet. How are you personally? Can you communicate? Those types. And so address those two particular groups, your peers and your patients, in terms of power of your presence and the passion that you have that will that will be of value to these two groups of people. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that makes sense.
Good. Do you have any questions before we end the meeting?
One of the questions I did have was when I was looking at you and talking to you, did you find any point in time when I was like looking away? That's one of my concerns.
No, I thought you did really good. In fact, I wrote down on my pad here a good eye contact. So I thought
Okay,
you had
that's good. Yeah.
very good eye contact. It's a very good question, and I think you had a really good eye contact, especially in a virtual setting. It's often difficult because you don't know
Mhm.
whether the screen or at the camera. It's a little awkward.
Mhm.
So my suggestion is typically to try to get the picture of the interviewer as close to your camera as possible on the
Sure.
screen, as close to your camera as possible, so that when you're looking at the picture on the screen of your interviewer, it's not awkward and it's pretty close. Because it's just we don't often stare at the camera. We usually look
Mhm.
at
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But I thought you did a great job on that. And overall, I would
Thank
say
you.
you did a really fine job for your first time. I thought you did a great job. So
Thank you so much.
kudos to you. Yeah, kudos to you. Thank you for joining us today on the mini mock interview. And I hope you have a really nice rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.